What's something people in their 20s don't realize is going to affect them when they age? Story 1. Bad habits become harder to recover from and can lead to health problems for the rest of your life. Not just in catastrophic ways, but in little ways like bad joints or aches and pains. Stay mobile and stay healthy. It's been proven that if you keep exercising, you lose much less muscle mass as you age. In your 40s, it's not so bad, but 60s, 70s, 80s, people start looking like skeletons. Also, don't listen to loud music. Wear earphones at concerts. Wear proper ear protection if you're shooting guns. Tinnitus is a nightmare. I haven't heard silence in so long. It can happen earlier, but it can get worse as you age. Can confirm, the hearing protection point. Used to shoot sporting clays with my dad and he frequently forgot hearing protection. We used napkins instead. The ringing is endless, and sometimes it becomes overwhelming. Age 35. About 4 years ago, I developed tinnitus. The funny thing is, I did not recognize it immediately. I kept hearing this high-pitched noise and assumed it was my computer. I replaced my computer and the ringing remained. I turned off all electronic devices. The ringing remained. At this point, I assumed it was the air conditioner and went to other rooms of my house, seeing which rooms were quieter. They all had that same sound. I went into a closet and shut the door while the sound persisted. It took me a good month to put it together and realize what I was hearing was actually in my head. I've been to a ton of loud concerts as a teen, late 20s now, and figured that's the occasional high-pitched noise I hear that randomly starts and then goes away. Also noticed that I have a different pitch in my right ear. If I put an earbud only in my right ear, it makes people on TV sound higher pitched, almost chipmunk-like. But in my left ear, totally fine sounding. Doesn't matter what brand or which earbud I put in my right ear, it is always a higher pitch. Not even sure what that means. At least yours was fun. I have tinnitus from hearing hundreds of thousands of rounds going off with minimal ear protection from time to time in the military. Pisses me off that the range people and higher-ups had proper ear protection. I got a piece of crap foam to shove in my ear and then was chastised for not being able to clearly hear instructions being given. What did 19-year-old me and probably 3/4 of my platoon think? If I pull it half out, I have a chance to hear what they're saying and not get in trouble. I'd have rather done 50,000 push-ups, jumping jacks, and mountain climbers if it meant I didn't have this debilitating ringing in my ears 24/7. Story 2. Not putting in the work to maintain relationships. Having friends in your 20s is accidental. Having friends in your 40s is a part-time job. Also, don't put more work into keeping a friendship if they don't at least marginally reciprocate. I spent my 20s and 30s trying to regularly call and contact friends from college. They were always fun to catch up with, but eventually I realized that they never reached out to me. It's not personal, everyone just gets new jobs, partners, kids, moves, etc. that you cannot be a priority anymore. I feel this as I'm approaching 50. A lot of my friendships from high school and college days have since evaporated. I've been making more of an effort to maintain the few relationships I have from back then, and I also have been doing my best to make new friends. But it's a lot of work when you don't see your friends every day, and you are all living your own lives. Social media kept a lot of those connections alive. But I bailed on Facebook years ago and barely touched Instagram anymore. I am 38, and in my opinion, the biggest problem with friends as we age is people grow apart. And as you grow apart from someone, there are not necessarily others replacing them. I have friends, I have people who might think I am their friend, I have people who call me a friend, and I have friends. It seems the main difference between me and the not actually friends are life decisions and choices. I feel like the better choices I make, the further along in life I go, and not everyone I hold dear has kept pace. And it is sad, and a bit disappointing, when I see people I once cared about fail to grow as people and remain stuck in a rut. I often wonder if I will be lonelier the older I get, in terms of having friends or not, but I also know I spend a lot of time alone anyway, and am rather comfortable with just being around myself. I figure many people are like me. I appreciate your perspective. Wow, this is on point. In my 20s, I was like a social Roomba, bumping into people and making connections. Now friend groups have dispersed, people have moved to where they want to live and not where they have to. as they settled into careers and good savings. Making new friends post-COVID feels inorganic. Getting together with friends who remain takes effort and planning. Babysitters have to be considered, and even then half the plans fall off close to the date. It's a whole level of commitment I wasn't expecting. Those with low social batteries like me have a hard time with this, but I don't want to wallow in loneliness either. Story 3. Not wearing ear protection at concerts. Having tinnitus sucks. Not just concerts, loud bars and nightclubs. Also the overuse of headphones. Everyone uses headphones for phone calls, Zoom meetings, gaming, and music at unsafe levels. I hope they find a cure for tinnitus with stem cells. I got mine from a vacuum cleaner. A vacuum cleaner. I'll never stop being mad about it. If it's any consolation, it's amazing how good hearing aids are getting. My grandpa worked for GM in the factory and they didn't wear ear protection. About 10 years ago, he told me it had been 20 years since he's heard a bird sing. I don't actually know if he has heard a bird since then, but when I see him, I expect his hearing to be worse. But often it's actually better than the last time. They're so much less noticeable too these days. Also, as a small PSA, I had ringing in my ears for years and just accepted the original iPod headphones destroyed my ears when I was 14 like the rest of us. Recently, I had a change in prescription meds and I stopped taking one and could not believe it when I realized a quiet room was quiet. Check your side effects. I had no idea. Flat attenuation/concert earplugs have been a game changer. I keep them on my keyring and end up wearing them a ton in noisy environments. They don't cut down as much as regular earplugs and don't muffle things as much, so I wouldn't use them for really loud stuff, but at concerts, bars, sports games, etc., they work great. It also sounds like BS, but concerts really do sound better. Knocks down all the background noise as well, so you do end up hearing the music well. Wish I had learned about them sooner, but I ended up with a very disappointing hearing test. I was even pretty good about hearing protection outside of things like concerts. Another surprisingly bad thing for your ears is driving with windows down at high speed, like highways. Actually gets loud enough to be damaging on longer drives. Story 4. If you haven't figured out a balanced diet and exercise routine by the time you're 40, you're going to start seeing negative quality of life impacts. I definitely had to make some changes when my cholesterol numbers were going in the wrong direction. Diet and exercise are important as we get older, and I want to make sure that I'm one of those still active old people. I'm now at the point where the choices I make will shape the rest of my life, and I have to remind myself I'm in my late 40s and not my late 20s. The good news is that I'm now course correcting and I'm already out of a lot of the risk zones, but it's hard work to remain that disciplined. I'm 36 and in the same boat. In the past 4 years, I've quit smoking, quit using marijuana, only drink alcohol socially and sparingly, cut back on caffeine and sugar, and learn how to eat healthy. And most importantly, have a 6-day-a-weekly workout routine that includes yoga, resistance training, running, swimming, and tennis. It has been incredibly difficult to get to this point, but every aspect of my life has improved because of it. I look and feel younger now than I did 10 years ago. Meanwhile, my friends who are complacent in their unhealthy lifestyles are already looking like they are 10 years older than they are, and are beginning to have the medical issues to go along with it. I have tried so hard to motivate these friends to change, but they won't budge. All they want to do is go to the bar, drink, eat, and smoke, missing out on all of the great activities that fitness allows you. I'm afraid I'll eventually be going to their funerals rather than them going to mine, and sooner than they realize. Yep, at 45 I started to realize that just saying, "Hey, let's take a walk downtown," was excluding half of my friends. So many people in their mid-40s can't do basic stuff like walk a few miles, let alone anything actually physically demanding like skiing, snowboarding, rock climbing, hiking, camping, skateboarding, bike riding, motorcycles, swimming, etc., etc. More and more people I spend time with just can't do much, and it's really sad. This has been a major struggle for me in my late 30s because all the men in my family appear skinny, appear in shape, and always have good cholesterol levels. Our blood work always comes back flawless, even though we're positive half of us have hyperthyroid issues, but all the women in our family, their labs show it and get treated. Anyways, the main killers in my family are heart failure and heart attack, the main culprits being clots. It's such an out of sight, out of mind problem that it's hard to stay motivated to get in shape when I have no energy at the end of the day for myself because of young children. I know I need to get in shape, especially for their sake, so I've started walking/running again. But my knees aren't having it now. I went too long without any need to either strengthen the supporting muscles with braces until I can go without them, or take up swimming or cycling where I'm not straining them so much. If I just kept on top of it, even at a casual level, I wouldn't be in this position. Stay active. Yep. But even if you haven't figured it out by the time you're 40, it's never too late to implement positive changes. Bettering your diet and implementing an exercise routine will bring positive outcomes no matter the age. I lost a bunch of weight in my early 30s only to pack it back on and then some during the pandemic. I got diagnosed with osteoarthritis in my knees at 38, and the pain had gotten to the point I had mobility issues, struggled to squat down to tie my shoes, or anything that involved having to get on the floor and getting back up. I did physio, which helped me regain mobility, and am working out regularly to make sure I keep that mobility. I can't reverse the arthritis that is there, but I've been told with regular exercise I can keep it from progressing further. So that's the plan now. I also lost 26 pounds along the way, but recently went through a very stressful time where I put about 8 of that back on, so now I'm working on getting the scale to go back down again. The diet is definitely the trickier part, but I'm going to keep at it until I reach a healthy weight and make sure I can maintain that so I can maintain my mobility. Story 5. That knee injury you think you recovered from is going to come back to haunt you. That's what the doctor said after my 3rd knee dislocation back in high school, twice on the right and once on the left from varsity football. He said, "I don't want to scare you, but this is probably going to haunt you in your late 30s to early 40s. This is a lot of damage that you will recover from now, but may cause problems down the road." Yep, it's no joke. Dislocated my knee numerous times in high school, and now I'm getting ready to schedule an osteotomy and cartilage replacement from a cadaver at just 30 years old. It's a year-long recovery. Not surprised, that's about the timeline they gave me as well. One doctor literally said, "As early as 30 years old. That's only 4 years away from me, and luckily I'm at a point where I can do 4 to 5 miles of cardio a day on an elliptical, so it may not be quite that early, but it's definitely coming. Good luck with the procedure and recovery, man." I fully blew out my ACL, PCL, PLC, and LCL on both knees, shattered the bottom of my femur, or was it the top of my tibia, on one leg, paralyzed my foot on one leg, and stretched out the artery on another. A year apart at 18 or 19 thanks to a connective tissue disorder. On the knee I first dislocated, I was given allografts, and by the time I had dislocated the second one, they had all completely stretched out again thanks to the aforementioned and somehow undiagnosed disorder. So as soon as I finished uni, I had to have a 2-stage procedure to remove all the metalwork because there wasn't room for any more screws, and they kinda polyfill the holes with inner hip crest goop. 0 out of 10 would recommend this bit. Waited to heal, then had synthetic ligaments put in that knee too. The surgeon told me I would see signs of arthritis early, so I said, what, like 60? And he went, "No, younger than that," and let me work down the decades until he went, "Yeah, you probably won't get to your 30th birthday without seeing the signs of it," with absolutely zero compassion for yet more major news and almost what felt like a bit of a perverse pleasure in it. As I cruised through 29, experiencing the best few years of my life health-wise, I felt so smug that I had proved that prick wrong. About 6 months before my 30th birthday, out of the blue, my knee started making a noise, like someone stomping on cereal, and felt weird, and, quite rapidly, started to bother me. I eventually stopped putting it off and went to the doctor, and 2 weeks before my 30th birthday got my results that yes, I had arthritis in both knees before I hit 30. I had not proved him wrong. I should note I did crap all to try to maintain optimal knee health though, not like you doing large amounts of exercise to keep you strong, so you're probably right, that'll ward it off a bit longer. Story 6. The benefits of working out. My father started regularly working out in his 40s. Nothing extreme, just consistent. He is now 87 and is still in great health. All of his doctors have credited the fact that he started regularly taking care of himself as the reason why he's doing so well. Now, the flip side of that is that he has had to deal with a lot of loss, including my mother. That's a painful fact of life. As you get older, you are just going to lose people. And not just your older relatives either. I've already lost a few friends who died way too young, and if all goes well based on family history, I'm in good shape to live quite a long time. So I'm going to keep losing people I care about. Yeah, my grandma died in her late 90s, and she was so ready to go when the time came. She outlived and grieved her husband of 70 years, all of her siblings, all of her friends, several of her children. She had 14 of them, and even a few grandchildren. My mom is one of those 14 children she had. I'm already preemptively sad for the last one standing, who will have buried 13 of their siblings. My grandma is in her early 90s now, and I always wonder what it's like for her, watching her siblings drop off one by one, most of her friends dying, but outliving a husband is the worst kind of pain. My grandparents have been together close to 70 years, and I just don't want to think about what one of them will go through when the time comes. My grandma is 94 and lost her husband almost 2 years ago now. She tries to find joy in her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, 13 children, 30 grandkids, and going on a dozen greats, but you can tell she's ready to be done. She's lost all of her siblings and nearly all her friends. We try to keep her as busy as we can so that she doesn't get lonely and dwell. But she confessed to me one day, when I took her out for breakfast, that she often cries at night because she misses Bill so much. I feel incredibly lucky that I have a living grandparent at 42, but personally I don't think I could live that long myself. Story 7. Finding hobbies and other interests is more important than you think. It's so damn dull talking to someone who has no interests to share and can't really talk about themselves at all. And no, watching Netflix isn't a hobby. Being on Reddit isn't a hobby. As a person with many hobbies, cycling, fountain pens, birding, motorcycles, etc., I will say that watching Vanderpump and other Bravo shows is definitely a hobby, and I've enjoyed so many hours chatting with friends and strangers about whether James Kennedy has redeemed himself. 100%. I hate the idea that pop culture isn't culture just because it's popular. I don't watch VPR, but I listen to a podcast about it when I work out. And I realized it's because I get so much joy out of listening to new friends talk about their silly show interests. People need to realize that haterade has a lot of calories, and we're all going to die, so let people have fun. I absolutely love TV. Hell, I've watched Succession 4 times. Nobody seems to have a problem with men sitting around in professional athlete cosplay, but watching the entire 90-Day Fiancé franchise is considered frivolous. Interesting what's societally valued and what isn't. Story 8. Neglecting your dental health. Deciding to stop going to the dentist because you are no longer forced to by your family won't end well. Trust me. That was not a smart choice I made way back when, and it affected me for years after. Honestly, it could have been much worse for me. I 100% agree. But for many people, regular dentist visits aren't an option. If you think our health insurance system is bad, check out our ridiculous dental plans. Many dental plans are basically coupons for only the most basic services. Exactly. At least here in the US, it's an affordability issue. It is prohibitively expensive to get any dental service except the most basic. Being a dentist means being okay with open avarice and knowing that people will have long-term health consequences because the system is pay-to-play only. Until my mid-20s, I basically never flossed, brushed once a day, maybe twice if I remembered, and never went to the dentist because I didn't have insurance. 10 years later, life turned around and now I see my dentist every 6 months, floss daily and brush twice. A ton of my friends are losing teeth, having major surgeries, implants, etc. now, and it feels good being on top of it. Something else to consider when it comes to dental health: it's better late than never. I was never taken to the dentist as a child, and my parents didn't give a crap about dental hygiene. Once I became an adult, I had a fear of doctors and dentists. My dental hygiene was absolute crap, but I started brushing twice a day and flossing when I could, because it was painful. It still took me 8 years of adulthood to muster up the courage to see a dentist, and it was only because I thought I had broken a tooth. I had 6 cavities, extreme plaque buildup, and impacted wisdom teeth. Luckily, it was not anything worse than that. I paid out of pocket for a deep cleaning and 6 fillings at Aspen Dental, which I now know was a bad choice. But I was poor and desperate to save my teeth. Since then, I've brushed twice a day and flossed religiously. There are some years that I can't afford the dentist trip. I still brush and floss. Those habits will stick with me forever, but I'm still living with the impacts of poor dental health in childhood. Aspen Dental is crappy. I've had a bad experience with them, and you know what else my new dentist found out that they did? They put a crown over some old filling in my lower left molar. Hooray, assholes. So now I have to get a whole new crown, and my dentist said it was going into the bone. I'm lucky I haven't had an infection or abscess by now. Story 9. Saving for retirement. Wish I started sooner. Reminds me of this quote every time. The best time to start saving for retirement was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. For years, I was telling myself that I couldn't afford to save for retirement. The truth was, I absolutely was able to, but instead I spent that money on cheap food and nights out at the bar with friends. With that being said, I don't regret making those choices when I was younger, but the point is, there was always a little money here or there that I could have been saving. And had I put that money into a retirement or brokerage account, I'd be in really good shape right now. This is less retirement advice and more budgeting advice. People see money available, and they will spend it. Putting it somewhere that's less easy to spend will reap huge benefits later. I try to live by the idea that just because you have the money for something doesn't mean you can afford it. Obviously, there are people legitimately living paycheck to paycheck or worse, but a lot of people think you need every streaming service or a new phone all the time, or that it's easier or somehow cheaper to order dinner instead of making it. Not to mention buying a car or house you can technically afford, but it takes every penny you earn to make payments. Sure, having nice things is nice, but for me, there's nothing better to have than financial stability, and a healthy family, obviously. Getting started in your 20s can have a huge effect on retirement savings. That compound interest really adds up over time. It's a difficult situation to be in when you're saving for retirement in your 20s. You don't make very much, so it's hard to allocate money out of your income. So it's easier at the time to kick the can down the road while trying to get by. That's what I did. Oh, I'll make more money later in my career and I'll invest more then. But the funny part is, in retrospect, I think it would have been much easier to carve out $50 per paycheck than it is now. Even 10 years ago, I used the excuse that I have a baby. I can't afford this. That excuse meant I missed out on a generous dollar for dollar 6% match with that employer at the time. I still have a kid to worry about, but scared as hell about how far behind I am. I'm contributing the max to get my employer's match for the last 6 years, and trying to defer as much as possible. Even though I don't make a whole lot of income, without a doubt, contribute to at least an IRA in your 20s if your employer doesn't have a retirement plan. Start that healthy habit now. Story 10. That life goes by fast, especially after 25. Junior/high school, you're moving at the same speed as a rickety African train on wooden tracks. The years just seem to crawl by. College, you've just stepped onto a diesel-pulled train that does not move dead slow, but at the same time moves with a determined velocity. The first 2 years are slow, then speed noticeably picks up in year 3. Work. You've just stepped onto the high-speed Shinkansen. You look out the window and the scenery is just sometimes a blur. Where did 10 years of my life go? Where did 20 years go? Nobody tells you how fast life gets once you get into the world of work. I like to think it's because we spend our work days just wishing the day was over and looking forward to the weekend. That and doing the same task over and over, your body just kind of goes on autopilot. I try to have fun at work and enjoy my time there as much as possible. We'll see if it makes a difference. There are some good videos about this, but our brains have a phenomenon where we retain novel experiences much better than repeated ones. I took a work trip and can remember every building I was in more vividly than the buildings I pass every single day to work. This has me dedicated to making sure I travel regularly once my kids get older and I have more opportunities to do so. I think that will at least help life to feel a bit slowed down. I think this is a big part of it. When you're young, not only are you experiencing things for the first time, but your life changes pretty frequently too. New classes every semester, a new school every few years, new friends around every corner. Once you start your career, it's very easy to fall into an unchanging routine for years or even decades. I'm a creature of routine, but don't want life to pass me by, so I'm trying to follow the example of friends wiser than I who seek out new experiences just for the novelty. Whether it's travel, picking up new hobbies, or literally just taking a different route home for the hell of it. Story 11. Some people are made of titanium. Some people aren't. There's no way to know which is which. My friend's dad was a coke addict who was very healthy at 74. Had a healthy runner friend have a heart attack at 35. Just because one person can binge drink and be healthy at 80 doesn't mean that you can. You won't know until it's too late. Genetics can be a blessing and a curse. My grandmother lived to 84 after a few MIs and smoked Virginia Slim 100s until the day she died. Another elderly woman I knew had lymphoma, beat it, all while still smoking during COVID, and then died in her sleep at 74, a year after getting remission. That was my grandmother. The doctor even told her not to quit because the stress could kill her. I went to high school with someone who had lung cancer at 24 and never smoked. She beat, but she seems to be prone to cancer because she has had breast cancer and then skin cancer too. She must be catching it early because she beats it every time. I feel like that is usually a misrepresentation of what they are told. My grandma smoked 1 to 2 cartons of Winston's every day. Her doctors said the same thing. Until my mom was there and it turned out the advice was really, I have been saying for years, don't quit completely cold turkey. That might kill you. But if you don't quit soon, they will kill you anyway. She quit for a year and her health improved drastically. Then she started again and nosedived, lasted about another year. Yep, a ton of it is genetics. A friend had a father who was always healthy and ran often, all over the neighborhood. He died when we were in middle school. My dad smoked, now has COPD, never eats veggies, drinks sodas full of sugar constantly, etc. He's in his 70s. Even money won't save you if you have bad genetics. My friend's father was wealthy, a PhD from Yale, and lived near some world-class hospitals, ate healthy food and never used alcohol, tobacco, or drugs, exercised every day, maintained a healthy BMI. A pedestrian found him dead on the sidewalk when he was 60. He died from a heart attack during his daily jog. This thread is creating an incorrect perception, namely that it doesn't really matter if you exercise because of genetics, so you might as well smoke, etc., because why not? The truth is that those who exercise vastly overwhelmingly live long and healthy lives, even if a small percentage catch a bad break. Just like those who live sedentary lives full of substance abuse are far more likely to keel over early. Yes, a percentage has that Churchill gene crap going on and are effectively immortal, but don't get the numbers twisted. Story 12. Lack of physical activity is a huge one. Just because you aren't overweight does not mean you don't need regular exercise. The benefits go far beyond weight loss. Exercise maintains the health of your bones and joints. It also maintains many of your internal organ systems, and currently we're learning that it even helps to maintain the telomeres are your chromosomes, effectively slowing down the aging process itself. Very much all of this. People only think exercise is useful only for weight loss, but the benefits of exercise are independent and can exceed those of weight loss alone. For example, exercise can decrease your risk of heart disease by 30%, but weight loss by diet alone will only decrease it by 10%. Exercise also targets fat around your organs first, visceral fat. So even if your weight and abdo measurement size do not change, your internal organs, i.e. fatty liver, are still reaping the benefits. It also decreases inflammation, which is relevant in so many things including depression, anxiety, memory, and dementia, and decreases oxygen-free radicals, which slow down aging. People are always looking for the golden bullet in health, overlooking the fact that simply moving is exactly that. Also improves mental health drastically. I started fitness/urban inline skating a couple of months before my 40th birthday. It's basically been a year now and I've never felt better, mentally and physically. Seeing your body and mind transform has been incredible. I know depressed people are told to go outside and exercise, and most think it's cliche, but it's been an amazing boost for me. I have been on SSRIs for 3 years, but this last year has been full of tangible results. Story 13. The families of their SO. Even if your SO is amazing, if their family culture is toxic, it is going to have a massive negative effect on your life. I know it sounds harsh or sad, but it should be a big portion of the decision to commit to someone. This 100% depends on the relationship your partner has with their family. If your partner recognizes that their family is toxic, has taken steps to distance themselves from the toxicity, and will defend you against their family, then you probably won't have issues. If your partner is still enmeshed in the toxic family culture, then it's not going to be a good time. This is great in theory. I have found most people with toxic families know it, but stay connected, because it's their freaking mom and their dad. Even if they know they are pieces of crap, they cannot break free, and I get that. I like the commenter bringing it up. Most people don't think about it. More and more people are starting to cut off their families. You can stay in contact with a toxic family as long as you have very strong boundaries. Usually this means very low contact with short durations. It's definitely a difficult thing to do, and not everyone manages to break free. I agree that if you have a healthy relationship with your family, you're not likely to consider if your partner's family is toxic. Story 14. The sun. OMG, you're 40? Your skin is better than mine at 20. I don't wear sunscreen. Oh honey, we can tell. My mom is always asking me what skin creams I use, and low-key implies I'm lying about having no skincare routine beyond sunscreen. She was big on suntanning, so much so that she deliberately allowed me to burn as a child because I was too pale. She won't accept the sun is what ages her skin. It's crazy too, because she does still look very good for her age. If she had used sunscreen, she'd have looked even better. One of the reasons I look a lot younger than my age is because I always wore sunscreen when I was younger, and I still stay out of the sun, and when I am out, I wear a hat and still wear sunscreen. I also never smoked when I was younger because that also really ages your skin. Can confirm, growing up in Australia, sunscreen was drummed into me by my mother as a young teenager. She moved over to Central Australia and the damage over a couple of years was brutal. Worn sunscreen almost every day of my life since, and at 40, it's in pretty good condition. Used to be SPF 15, then 30, and now 50. Never smoked young either, and never drank alcohol until the late 30s, and even just a drink or two at most on rare occasions. I'm thankful that I made these choices. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video in particular, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.